One of my favorite things about birding is that you don't need basically anything to get started. You can literally just walk out the door, start looking at birds, and you're birding. My name is Derek. Me and my brother Ryan run the company Badgerland Birding. I've been birding for 10 years, and this is everything you need to know about birding if you're just starting out. So first of all, let's talk about the difference between bird watching and birding. Some people will say that they're the same thing. Me and Ryan kind of think that bird watching is more passive, like you just kind of see them like, oh, cool birds. Birding is a little more active of maybe you're seeking out different species, you're tallying different species, but like I said, some people will say that they're actually one and the same. But yeah, to start off, you don't really need anything. A lot of people will get a pair of binoculars. So I have a whole video about binoculars for beginners. You can check that out in the description, but I always say, just get something, that's not going to break the bank. A lot of the more inexpensive binoculars are still going to be decent for getting you closer to the birds. The general magnification is 8 times, and so it'll say something like 8 by 42. These are 10 by 50s, so there's a lot of different ones, but generally 8 by 42 is the standard, but you could get something that's 10 by 50, and that'd be just as good. So 10 is a little closer up than 8, and like I said, you can check out that binocular video for more info on binoculars for beginners. But see if you have one laying around the house, see if your friend has one maybe you can borrow, and that'll just get you a little closer to the birds, which makes you appreciate them a little more. So you can invest in a pair of binoculars. That's definitely something in the beginner birder starting kit. And then people will also often get cameras. Now I recommend starting with something simple. This is a little bridge camera, the Panasonic LUMIX FZ80. And I've used this camera for, I think, all of the years I've been birding, and I love it. It's super light, it's super versatile. It's got a huge zoom, so you can get close to the birds, take a picture. It's a little harder to get super high quality images with something like this. Another good option is the Nikon P1000 as a super zoom camera. But sometimes if you start with like a big lens and a really expensive camera, it can be harder to learn it. So I would actually recommend starting with something like this before then moving on and learning more about, the photography aspect later. But something like this will be good to get you closer to the birds. You can get some photos that might help you identify them later. Then later on, you can go and start exploring the bigger cameras and get maybe more into bird photography. But to begin, I think something like that is perfect. One other piece of gear you might want to get over time is a spotting scope. So this is something you would set up on a tripod, and normally it has more magnification. So you can see things that are far away. So if you're scanning flocks of shorebirds, little birds on the mud, can help to set up a scope, and then you can get a better idea of what is hanging out there. So this is definitely not something you necessarily need right away, but it can be helpful over time, especially if you're serious about birding. And I'll put some links in the description to some of my favorite gear. I'm a big fan of Vortex optics. We are friends with some of the people that work there, but they've been super nice and helpful, and they have a lifetime warranty on their products. If you have something that says Vortex on it and it's damaged, they'll replace it or send you a new one. So that's really great. And they're also based in Wisconsin, which is where we're based out of as well. So it's hard for us not to love Vortex optics and their products. But like I said, I'll post a link to some of the products in the description that we like and that are, high quality, we found to be really good. Now, there's a couple different apps that you'll want to get. They're free, so you don't have to spend any money on it. So not that long ago, it was actually really helpful to carry a physical field guide. So there are different guides that have the birds in your region. You can carry it around, see a bird, try to find it in the guide. Now we've expanded a lot in our technology. So one of the apps I would recommend you download is the Merlin Bird ID app. I have a whole video on how to use that as well, which you can check out. But basically, you download it, you can get different packs for like what's in your area, and then you can explore the different birds. So it has like all the birds you can check out. There's also a photo ID feature, so you can, if you have a picture, you can put it in there. It'll try to tell you what it is. But one of the really cool features is sound ID. So like here, you just press this button, hold it out, and it'll try to tell you what sounds it's hearing. Now, a lot of beginners rely way too heavily on that. They think that everything it's reporting is 100% accurate. You should definitely be doing some due diligence and saying, oh, it's identifying this. Let me listen/look for that bird so you can confirm it yourself. So don't just trust that everything it's listing there is actually present. But it's a really cool app and a really good one to just kind of see what's around your area. Using that song ID can give you a good idea of, oh, these birds might be in my yard. Now, another one that a lot of birders use is called eBird. And there's a mobile version of the app and then more like a desktop version. And the desktop version you can get to from like a search browser. So like on Safari, you can type in eBird, get the functionality of desktop. But basically that's a way to report sightings. I have videos on the eBird mobile app and the eBird like more desktop version, so you can check those out as well. But basically it's a way of reporting your sightings, so you can make a checklist. I saw these birds here. It'll record it all for you, and you can also search to find out where birds are. So those apps are super useful for beginners, and it's really fun having all that data and statistics, so make sure you check out those other videos as well. Now, there's also some terminology that we should go over. There's some interesting words that birders use that you might not be familiar with, like a lifer. That is a bird you're seeing for the first time in your life. So say you look out your window and you see a northern cardinal. If you've never seen that bird before, it's a lifer for you. So a lot of people celebrate the excitement of getting lifers. It's super fun to see birds for the first time. You can tell other people, yeah, I got my lifer northern cardinal today. It's pretty cool. Another one is like FOY, F-O-Y. That stands for first of year. So you might see something for the first time in the year. It's your FOY or your first of year northern cardinal, something like that. Additionally, other terms you might run into is stringer. That's kind of someone who more or less makes up bird sightings. There's a lot of terminology to go over. Those are some of the ones, but you might encounter other terms too, like a twitcher. That's somebody who goes out and looks for a rare bird that's previously been reported, often driving or traveling a far distance. One other important term I want to mention is a big year, which is when someone tries to see as many birds as possible in a single calendar year. You can do one of these for any region you would like, such as globally, in the United States, in a particular state, or county. There's also a movie called The Big Year that you should definitely watch if you're getting into birding. So as you get into it, I would say start by looking around your neighborhood, learning the birds in your yard, listening to their songs and calls. You can use some of our song and call videos as well to help kind of train for what's in your region. And then as you learn that, you can kind of start expanding out. There's a number of different organizations that you can be part of if you want to, but I love the fact that you really don't have to. You can kind of learn on your own or use eBird to help you as you go. But there might be like local Audubon chapters or local bird clubs that are hosting events or walks that you can join. Those are great. It always helps to have a good mentor, someone that can kind of teach you along the way. So if you want, you can do that. Otherwise, like I said, you can kind of just learn on your own and use eBird and online to help you figure out what you're seeing. It does help to join like Facebook groups. You could try looking up birding and then whatever area you're in to find Facebook groups in your region. Those are great. So you can kind of learn what's most used in your region and then focus on that. So additionally, once you start learning more about birding, you might want to travel to different regions, and you can find different bird guides to also take you out if you have a little higher budget. So that can be a great way to learn. You kind of get a paid mentor basically to show you around and show you the best places. Also with birding, there's so many different things you can do with it. You can be someone that watches your bird feeders, get a crazy backyard with native plants, bird baths, bird feeders, all that kind of stuff. They even make smart bird feeders that have cameras in them so you can watch the birds from your phone. We have a bunch of videos on that. You can do that. You could be a lister, so you go around trying to find as many birds as possible to add to your life list. You could become more a bird photographer. You become just a casual watcher. There's so many different things you can do with birding, and it can be as crazy or as chill as you want, and that's something I really love about it. Additionally, there's even birding festivals you can go to. There's the Rio Grande Valley Birding Festival. South Texas is an awesome location. There's the biggest week in American birding, which takes place in spring in Ohio. They see some great eastern migrants over there. There's also the Southeast Arizona Birding Festival. So tons of different things you can do. I encourage you to just go out, start looking around what's in your neighborhood, and really get inspired. Try to meet some other birders and just have a great time. Birding's super fun. It can be kind of addictive. I kind of think of it like Pokemon, where you're, trying to see all these different things, and instead of capturing it, you're adding it to your list, taking a picture of it. Another thing I want to touch on is birding ethics. So as more people get into birding, sometimes it gets lost, kind of the ethical side of it. So you want to be able to observe and enjoy the bird, but what you don't want to be doing is negatively impacting the bird you're observing. So specifically, birds like owls are really sensitive, so you don't want to get too close to them. Generally, if like a bird is very thin, especially owls, they'll make themselves very thin, very puffy, or they'll stare daggers at you, or if they of course flush, you don't ever want to be the reason a bird leaves the area. That's definitely your sign to back away and leave the area. So it's great to observe and appreciate these animals, snap a couple photos, but we don't want to be disturbing them and negatively impacting them. Additionally, another controversial topic is the use of playback. So in certain situations, sometimes people will play the song of the bird to try to get it to pop out or respond, show its presence. There's a big debate on how ethical this is, especially like during the breeding season. You don't want to have that bird think there's a competitor and that it's spending time and energy trying to ward off the competitor or something like that. So that's a topic that is a little bit debated. We actually have a video on 5 birding controversies that you can check out, and that one is in there as well. But birding is super fun. There's a great community around it, and I hope that you found this video helpful and learning some beginner tips. Make sure to follow us for more. We have tons of bird and birding content. I'd also love to make an intro to birding class at some point, so if I do, I'll put it as a pinned comment. But until then, I hope you found this super helpful. Make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.